Dear brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created man and created him an ambitious creature. Our father Adam alayhi salam, the first of his kind, was maybe the most ambitious of his kind. He ate from the tree thinking, or after being lied to, that it would grant him immortality and an undiminishing kingdom. Vastness and boundlessness is what we have been created to desire. Everything else is beneath it. If it is not infinite, then people will desire it, and the greatest desire is that which is infinite. Ambitiousness and aspiration start from the youngest of ages. The newborn reaches out and tries to grab and to clutch, to hold objects in his grasp. He moves off his mother's lap eventually to sit unassisted. He crawls from place to place. Not satisfied with crawling, the baby is driven to stand on his own 2 feet, taking one step after the other, until eventually walking on his own, then running, then sprinting. The desire to excel physically is ingrained within us inherently. And then after the physical excellence which every human being desires, people's ambitions and people's aspirations differ and vary according to the environment they live in, and the surroundings which mold them, and their personal level of enthusiasm and motivation. But by and large, most ambitions are the same. Most people, brothers and sisters, live the same formulaic life, depending on where they live. Completing their primary education, and then moving on to secondary education, and then either choosing A-levels or B-Techs, for example, a vocation or which will lead on to an apprenticeship, or A-levels which will lead on to university. Work will follow, then marriage, then children. Owning one's own home is the dream. Economic stability for your family is again a normal goal. Whether through building and amassing a huge fortune, or making enough to put your children through university, marrying them off, and maybe even helping them put a deposit on their house. And the cycle goes on and on. Now, in and of themselves, brothers and sisters, these ambitions are permissible. They are lawful. No one can be blamed for wanting to excel in their career, whether it be medicine or engineering or law or business or academia, and the list goes on, of course. But when we look at each of these ambitions carefully, we realize that all of them have 3 things in common. All ambitions, all worldly ambitions, brothers and sisters, have 3 things in common. The first is that none of them are fixed. When they are attained, that is, they're not fixed or stable or lasting. Second, that all of them cause a level of anxiety to differing degrees. And that all of them, or that none of them, the third thing in common is that none of them are ends. The bodies we strengthen, for example, and the physiques we sculpt are prone to sickness and disease, and will succumb to gravity, which sags what was once toned and pulls us all down to our graves, which is our inevitable end. The perfect houses that we build will suffer dampness, will rust, and will crumble eventually. The money that we have saved sometimes decreases more than it increases. The scientific discoveries and theories are challenged and replaced with new ones. Nothing in the world of science, in the world of engineering, the world of medicine, anything in this world, nothing is stable. Nothing is lasting. The exams that we study for, brothers and sisters, and revise so much so that we may pass, cause us a level of anxiety, do they not? The job position that we hold causes us a level of anxiety. Marriage is the same. Raising our children is a worrying affair, if not the most worrisome. Maintaining your fortune troubles you. Keeping your position of influence and seat of power keeps you awake at night. There is happiness in achieving goals, of course, no one is denying that. But it's not perpetual, it's never lasting. It's always interrupted by anxiety and fear. None of these worldly ambitions are real ends. They are not the end either. Meaning, once one achieves their goals and fulfills their ambitions, there's always a need for something else after it. If something isn't an end, it is by necessity a means. Now we're reminded of the fragility of the material world and its temporary nature when we reflect on the reality of our worldly ambitions and goals. Because the soul desires perfection, the soul is inherently inclined towards what is infinite, immortal, eternal. The dunya will always disappoint. The dunya will always cause dissatisfaction, insecurity, and anxiety. And these meanings mirror the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam where he said, بادروا بالأعمال سبعة هل تنتظرون إلا فقرا منسيا أو غنى مطغيا أو مرضا مفسدا أو هرما مفندا أو موتا مجهزا أو الدجال فشر غائب ينتظر أو الساعة فالساعة أدهى وأمر. He said sallallahu alayhi wasallam, race to do good works against 7 things, 7 inevitabilities. If you live, you will meet one of these 7 fates. What are you awaiting but overwhelming poverty, or distracting wealth, or debilitating illness, or babbling senility, or sudden death, or the Dajjal, the most evil hidden to be awaited, or the hour, and the hour is more calamitous and bitter. There is no fate for man but these 7. And so, there must be an ambition, the pursuit of which is not torturous. Attaining it has lasting effects, and achieving it causes the opposite of anxiety, peace and contentment and satisfaction. Of course, brothers and sisters, we are speaking of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, the exalted in might, the absolute, the eternal. Finding Allah is the objective after which there is no other. The search for His pleasure causes no anguish or agony. Elevation to Him raises one to a station loftier than any of the worldly heights. Attaining His love is never followed by a heartbreak or distance from Him. Everything else besides Him is beneath Him. And after reaching Him, there is nothing that follows. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dear brothers and sisters, the passage of time is ever accelerating. Either figuratively, for those who don't value time and squander every moment they have, or literally, for those who live to witness the end of time, where the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, the hour shall not be established until time is constricted or shortened. The year is like a month is like the week is like the day, and the day is like the hour, and the hour is like the flare of the fire. We all experience this rapid passing of time. We enter into our 20s, start a job, get married, suddenly we're 30. We have a couple of kids, we're doing the school run, going to work, suddenly we're 40. And then 40 comes, and then the end of life is within sight. And then it is but moments before the grave. And so what is there to do, brothers and sisters? What can one hope for in this short life? We're often told to live with purpose. Of course, people vary in their understanding of what purpose is. Most people confuse ambition with purpose. Purpose is found, brothers and sisters, purpose is found in marrying your worldly ambitions with your eternal ambition. Entering paradise and seeking Allah's pleasure is an ambition, and the greatest ambition, of course, but it's not a purpose. Purpose is using a worldly ambition as a means, as a channel, as a conduit to Allah's pleasure, while fulfilling that worldly ambition's material objective, which is islah on earth, reformation on earth. To use your job, to use your family, to use your position, to use whatever it is you are aspiring to in this world, to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen and to reach His happiness. Brothers and sisters, we've entered into the month of Muharram, which signifies the beginning or the start of the new Islamic year. An entire year has passed, and like everyone, we all feel that it has passed by in the blink of an eye. And we say the same thing every year when a year ends, and it never gets old, and it never loses its meaning, and that is because it's a truth confirmed by Allah. He said, وَمَا أَمْرُ السَّاعَةِ إِلَّا كَلَمْحِ الْبَصَرِ أَوْ هُوَ أَقْرَبُ. And the matter of the hour, meaning the coming of the hour, how close it is as a twinkling of the eye or nearer. Like the blink of an eye or even nearer. But despite this short life, brothers and sisters, which we live so quickly, man's nature is to possess overreaching ambitions. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sat with the companions one day, and he drew a square. He drew a square, brothers and sisters, in the sand. And then he drew a line from one end of the square to the other, but extending out of the square. If this is the square, well, this is a rectangle. He drew a line going through it and coming out to the other end. And then inside the square, adjacent to the lines or perpendicular to that one line, he drew small lines. And he said to them, this is the human being, meaning the line. This is the human being. And this square is his ajal. It is his inevitable death, encircling him or surrounding him from all sides. And this line outside the square, the one that extends outside the square, is man's hopes. It's man's ambitions, it's his dreams. They go on beyond his life, beyond his appointed life. And these small lines are the calamities of the dunya. If one misses him, the other will afflict him. And if that misses him, the third will afflict him. Brothers and sisters, we all have many hopes and ambitions, more than we can fulfill in this one life. While it's healthy to be ambitious, excessive hopes can cloud our vision and distract us from our purpose. I want to do this and that and this and that and this and that. Too many people say. We are encouraged to narrow down and specify what it is that we want to achieve in life. To place for ourselves short-term goals and long-term goals. To let those short-term goals serve to pave the way for achieving the long-term goals. Whatever doesn't feature as a means to fulfilling the long-term goals, we don't busy and occupy ourselves with. Now, how can we make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whose pleasure is our ultimate goal and ambition, part of these worldly ambitions and worldly aspirations? Where does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fit? Or rather the other way round, where do these worldly ambitions fit in our path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It is through taqwa, brothers and sisters, consciousness of Allah during your work. You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not question you over how much wealth you have. That doesn't feature in the Quran or in the Sunnah. Allah does not ask anyone how much wealth they have on the Day of Judgment. He will ask, how did you earn that wealth? And on what did you spend it? He will ask us about the means. The means. Was Allah present in your heart when you made that money and when you spent it? Did you obey Him? The same applies to all worldly affairs. Did you cheat in your exams and qualify unjustly? Did you bribe people to take their votes? Did you lobby to remove honest and trustworthy people who hold the powers that be to account? Did you exploit your position once you attained it for personal gain? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not ask us about our worldly ambitions. Why were you a CEO, or why were you a surgeon, or why were you a business owner, or father, or mother, or scholar? Allah won't ask those questions. He'll ask, how did you get there? And what did you do with that position once you got there? That is how ambition and righteous purpose are distinguished from one another. My dear brothers and sisters, you may establish yourselves in this life, but you must keep and maintain connection with you must maintain connection with Allah. Your hearts must never be severed from Allah. As our Master Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, work for your dunya, for your livelihood, as though you will live forever. And work for your hereafter, your afterlife, as though you will die tomorrow. We all know the advice of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which he gave to Abdullah ibn Umar when he said to him, "Kun fi dunya ka'annaka gharibun aw 'abiru sabil." Be in this world as though you were a stranger or a traveler. A stranger, because this isn't your permanent home created for you to live in eternally. The akhirah, Jannah, is our real home. A traveler, because you won't weigh yourself down with unnecessary baggage. And you should make do with something light during this world. And don't be anchored down to it, because the time will come when you'll have to leave, and that departure will be a difficult one rather than a speedy and happy one. Apply yourselves, by all means, brothers and sisters, apply yourselves to fulfilling your ambitions and to achieve your purpose, which is married to your ambition to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But don't be deceived by this life and assume that it will last forever. Allah Ta'ala, He said, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ إِنَّ وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقٌّ فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا وَلَا يَغُرَّنَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورُ. O mankind, indeed the promise of Allah is truth. So let not the worldly life delude you, and be not deceived about Allah by the deceiver. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على الحبيب المصطفى وبعد. Dear brothers and sisters, this new Islamic year coincides with many changes occurring almost simultaneously. Millions of students just received their GCSE results, and they will determine what they'll go into or what they'll go on to study. A similar number received their A-level and B-Tech results and must make up their mind as to which direction they will steer themselves into adulthood, either higher education or apprenticeships. Many graduates will start new jobs after the summer. Many people got married during the holidays. These transitions, which all of us experience from time to time, coupled with the start of the new Islamic year, are opportunities for us to reflect on our purpose. Am I simply going through the motions of a typical, formulaic, unspectacular, uninfluential life? Who am I right now? What do I want to be? What do I live for? What is my project in life? The truth is, brothers and sisters, most people are content with just a normal life. And that is their right, to live a life of dignity, of equality, of freedom and justice. But there isn't much ambition in a normal life. Don't be Mr. Normal. Mr. Normal was born a normal birth and grew up in a normal home and had a normal childhood and had a normal education and graduated with a normal degree, and then went on to have a normal job and marry a normal woman and have normal children, and aged in a normal manner and died a normal death. Allah created us with a desire to rise above mediocrity, To not just be content with being normal. Living with purpose, brothers and sisters, necessitates being a special person. To live an eventful life. To have higher goals than most people. Don't settle for second best. Not because you wish to satisfy your ego, but because the believer is commanded to always aim for the summit, for the peak, for the pinnacle, even if he doesn't make it there. Because, brothers and sisters, achieving the ambition is not the point. The point is to walk on that path. Because Allah Ta'ala will not hold us accountable for the results of our effort. He will hold us accountable for whether we put the effort in or not. And so, even though we may not see, for example, justice in our lives, we still fight for justice, even though we may not see it. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us of the temporary nature of this life, and when he said, seize 5 things before 5 things. Your youth before your old age, your health before your sickness, your wealth before your poverty, your free time before your preoccupation, and your life before your death. All of these are temporary states. And like death, they all come to an end. Life comes to an end with death. Health comes to an end with sickness. And because our life is limited, it's a short space of time in which we can earn Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure. We live it once. We don't get second chances and do-overs. And it's not about how long we get to live, brothers and sisters, but it is about the quality of what we have to offer during our life. Some people have lived long lives with very little contribution, and some people have lived short lives which Allah has blessed due to their sincerity. And people have benefited for decades and centuries and millennia after their death. Don't let the line, we mentioned the line that the Rasul ﷺ drew, which extended beyond the square. Don't let the line that extends beyond the square be your hopes. Let that line be the reward which continues after your death. This is only possible if you live your life with righteous purpose. Brothers and sisters, we die upon the condition we live in, and we're resurrected upon the condition we died in. So choose very carefully the purpose for which you live, which will determine the condition upon which you will be resurrected. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us clarity of vision in order for us to narrow down what our lives are lived for. And we ask Him to grant us determination in fulfilling our purpose, and the strength needed to firm up our resolve, and the resilience to overcome the obstacles thrown at us. هذا وصلوا وسلموا على خير الأنام فإن الله أمركم بأمر بدأ به بنفسه وثنى بملائكة قدسه ثم بكم أيها المؤمنون فقال جل من قائل إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين وأعل بفضلك كلمتي الحق والدين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأقم الصلاة